How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Prozzy here. We're going to do a little ride around and explore and talk about why I would or would not start a family here in Taiwan. Now, if today's video releases on Friday, which it should, then it's my birthday. I'm turning 33, and I understand that I'm a little bit late thinking about these types of things. I know that it's more popular these days to start a family. We're going to get this red light. To start a family in your 30s, clocks are ticking. So what I want to do is start by talking about reasons why I would start a family in Taiwan, and then I'll talk about reasons why I wouldn't start a family here in Taiwan. And of course, I want to know all your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. You've got some experience, so let me know in the comments. I'd love to know. So one of the first reasons I would start a family here in Taiwan is more utilitarian, and that's just that it's cheap, at least cheaper than it is in my home country of Canada. The cost of living in Canada has gone up to such insanely high levels that it's pretty much unaffordable to live there. You can watch loads of videos on YouTube of people in Canada talking about this and complaining about it, just how expensive it is. And there's even videos I've seen of refugees that have moved to Canada for a better life and then have since moved back to their home countries because Canada is just so expensive. More and more people of my generation and the generation younger than me are deciding not to have kids for that very reason in Canada. A lot of my friends included decided not to have kids because it's just too expensive. I mean, the housing market right now is through the roof. Not that it's cheap in Taiwan, it's very expensive to afford a house here in Taiwan as well. But it's just everything, things like food and groceries and whatever, all the things you need when raising a kid or raising a family is just through the roof expensive. Whereas here in Taiwan, although it is getting more and more expensive as the years go on, it's still a lot more affordable than Canada is. And there's also, the fact that the government here, because the population in Taiwan is kind of taking a hit from people not having kids in Taiwan as well, does offer families money for every kid that you have. I don't think it's a lot, but I mean, it's nice. It's better than nothing. So that's always good to have. And the second reason why I would have kids in Taiwan is healthcare. The healthcare here is pretty good, which is nice because if you're going to raise a family and you're going to have kids, then your kids are going to get sick. Kids are disgusting. And so they always get sick. They're always need to see doctors. And here in Taiwan, healthcare is cheap. And there are clinics and hospitals all over the place, in every neighborhood. So it's really easy just to go in and see a doctor. That's also, it's not so great for the doctors and nurses that work here because they're underpaid and overworked. The healthcare in my home country isn't half bad. It's not free, but it is universal. We pay for it for our taxes, but the waiting times can be really, really long, and there's nothing worse than being stuck in a hospital waiting room for a whole day with your screaming baby because it's sick and you can't get help. That sucks. I don't know if you guys can see the city right now, but it is atrociously polluted. We're gonna get into that later on in the video. But the third reason I would raise a family here in Taiwan is that families here in Taiwan are a lot, I would say, more close-knit than we are in Canada. Mostly because Canada is an enormous country. So in my family, I have aunts, uncles, grandparents, members of my family that just live so far away all over the country. And it's very difficult to see them. And so the support system is quite a bit smaller. And but here in Taiwan, it's a smaller country. And there's also a cultural thing where families are just closer. Grandparents play a much larger role in raising kids here, which is always nice. Obviously, it's not perfect because I don't have family here in Taiwan. All my family is in Canada. Although the one downside is that because grandparents take do have a larger role. I don't know where I'm going, but I'm just going to explore this little road down here. That can create some conflict between the grandparents and the parents when raising kids. Maybe parents have things that they want to have happen and things that don't want to have happen, and maybe grandparents might, have a different idea or disagree with them. And because the family is closer in ties, it creates more conflict. I imagine, maybe if you're Taiwanese, you can comment down below what's your experience been with in-laws. I seem to have stumbled upon a graveyard, which was not my intention. I don't know where I'm going. Interesting to see, I guess, but anyways, hope that's not bad luck. They got people cleaning up, tomb sweeping. My fourth reason why I would have kids here is just the fact that they get to be bilingual. I know a lot of couples, you know, that are kind of maybe the husband's American or the wife is Taiwanese or whatever, and they raise their kids back in the States. Their kids tend not to pick up Chinese very well. I'm not sure exactly why that is. I think it's just the environment isn't mainly Chinese, and so they never pick up the language. You mother give me more of the room of the road. Hate that. Whereas if you raise kids here, they can speak both languages fluently, which is like a huge plus. And the last reason I think is just the fact that it gives you a bigger sense of like happiness and satisfaction having kids and raising a family. I think, you know, someone to be proud of and someone to take care of, I think really gives you a lot of fulfillment in life. I think, again, I've never done it, but if I had to imagine, ooh, third gear doesn't like this hill. But you know, it's not all rainbows and lollipops or whatever when it comes to raising kids. There are downsides to it too, and I have a number of reasons why I wouldn't raise kids. And the first reason, if you've been paying attention to the environment around me, is that the environment is not very good for raising a family. The pollution in particular, especially today, is atrocious. Let me show you.
Beyond those buildings, normally you can see the city, and you can't see anything past these immediate buildings. I don't know if it's super clear on camera, but you can see this way, it's just so bad. I mean, there's buildings, but there's a fog that's just above these housing lines right here. This is just absolute pollution, just smog.
I never grew up in an environment like this before. Canada has very clean air, very nice air. And I just don't know what growing up in this environment does to a person in the long term. And so it's something that like, oh, stray dog, gotta be careful, don't chase me. But it can't be good. And it's also, you know, with the environment, it comes with things like the interiors of Taiwanese homes are just like not built for young kids as well. They tend to be very like hard, like all the surfaces are hard and clear-cut corners and concrete. You know, the walls are made of concrete, the sofas are made of wood, and they have really hard coffee tables, and they have massive TV sets. And when you meet Taiwanese people, especially the boys, they always have like scars on their foreheads from when they were kids and they were running around their grandparents' living rooms or whatever, and they just smash their head up against the side of the furniture and cut their heads open. And it's just not like a comfortable atmosphere to raise kids in. And so it's something I think about a lot, like, man, I just don't know if my kid would be like safe here, particularly with like the traffic, you know what I mean? If they're playing outside, are they gonna get hit by a car kind of thing? Which is the next reason why I wouldn't raise a family here, is that there aren't really places, you know, open places for kids to play and enjoy. Like the neighborhood I'm in right now, as you can see as I'm riding around, there's no like grass, right? As soon as they open their door, there's just traffic. People zipping by on cars and stuff, and it's just so unsafe, and I always worry about that. And I guess I could give Taiwan some credit because there are a lot of parks, and there's also cultural differences, you know? Like I'm assuming if I raise a family here, I'll have myself a Taiwanese wife and a half Taiwanese, half Canadian child, and there are culture differences with raising and rearing children here. And I don't know where those cultural differences will arise from. Like it's difficult enough, you know, having a relationship with someone who comes from a different culture as you. But then you bring a child into the picture, and now there's a whole nother set of cultural differences that you have to overcome. And I just don't know like how I would navigate that. Like, for example, here in Taiwan, when a mother gives birth to a child, it's very common for them to spend a whole month in these kind of centers where they help the mother recuperate and get strong again, and they feed the mom, and they take care of the baby, and they change the diapers, and they just take care of everything for you. And they're, I don't know how expensive they are, but it's just something like I don't know that I would want as a dad, right? Like when you have the kid, I feel like for a Westerner, your first instinct is to spend time with your baby. I want to be with my newborn kid. I want to be with my wife. I want to be with my family. But instead, you know, my wife is locked up in this prison with the baby being taken care of with these strangers. It's such a weird, it just feels really unnatural to me, and I don't know how I feel about that. That's just one example of like a cultural difference I don't know how I would navigate. But I've saved the best for last, the most interesting. I'm back to this graveyard again. The most interesting one, at least in my eyes, why I wouldn't have a family here is that I know I've dated Taiwanese girls in the past, I've had Taiwanese girlfriends, and one shocking thing they tell me, one thing I almost can't believe is like when the idea of raising kids comes up, I always talk about how much I'd love to have a daughter. I don't know why, but I think I would prefer to have a daughter. They always tell me like, I'm worried that if we get married and have kids, that you will love our child more than you'll love me. And like that always took me aback. I was always like, well, what do you mean? I thought that was normal. Like, of course I'm gonna love this child more than I'm gonna love you. But pretty much every Taiwanese girlfriend I've had in the past, without fail, has said this. And I always found it shocking how like, how deep their jealousy can run, where like they're already jealous of my daughter that I haven't even had or conceived yet. And I always found that just so surprising. Like, why would you be worried about that of all things, you know? And I just don't know how I feel about that, where like a mother puts themselves in direct competition with their child for my love. I always found that really weird. I don't know if I would raise a family here. I mean, obviously I gotta find a wife first, someone who's dumb enough to marry me. So I don't think it'll ever happen. Who knows? I'm leaning more towards no. Mostly nothing to do with Taiwan or Taiwanese women or Taiwanese families. It's just right now I'm feeling very free. I'm a full-time YouTuber. I can ride my motorcycle whenever I want, make these videos whenever I want, do whatever I want. And I really like that lifestyle, and I don't know that I'm willing to give that up just yet, but we'll see. You know, I would really appreciate if you guys subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out. The channel's growing, it's going up and up. More and more of you guys are deciding to hit the subscribe button, and I'm super appreciative of it. I'm so close to 150,000 subscribers. Stay positive, keep a stick in the ice. I'll catch you guys on the next one. I'm gonna enjoy the rest of this ride.